Creflo Dollar is a man of God who managed to keep a clean slate right from the days of his humble beginnings at West Georgia College. This even caused many to fall into liking him. However, recent controversies surrounding his prosperity gospel and word of faith messages have raised curious eyebrows and caused many to wonder if these types of teachings actually align with what's in the Bible.
God is the gateway to the world of wealth.
In this video, I want to reveal the other side of Creflo's flashy smile as I dig deep into the latest controversies surrounding this dear man of God. As we begin, you can quickly give this video a boost by clicking the like and subscribe buttons on your screen. In the 1980s, the young Creflo Augustus Dollar Jr. was strutting around the campus of West Georgia College. He always had the swagger and the dreams of being a big NFL player. Creflo wasn't always a man of the cloth. Nope. He had his eyes on the field, ready to tackle opponents and score touchdowns. But fate had other plans. During a Bible study at Georgia Tech, he had a divine revelation. Maybe it was the fluorescent lighting or the smell of old textbooks, but Creflo decided to switch teams, from football to faith. So, in 1986, Creflo and his college roommate Ken started a Bible study in their dorm room. They called it the World Changers Bible Study. And guess what? It caught on like wildfire. Students flocked to hear Creflo's sermons, and attendance swelled to over 100 people. One fateful day, a young woman named Taffy decided to join one of Creflo Dollar's Bible studies. Taffy had spent most of her teenage years engaging in reckless behavior involving pills, alcohol, and promiscuity. However, when she entered college, she resolved to turn her life around. During her free time, she immersed herself in reading the Bible. Taffy would later recount in her memoir that upon seeing Creflo, she thought to herself, "I want to marry a man like him someday." She listened to Creflo's sermons and took notes. At the time, both Taffy and Creflo had their respective partners, so they started off as friends. About a year later, they found themselves both single and decided to take their relationship to the next level. Creflo began dropping hints about marriage, but Taffy was quick to shut down the idea, pointing out that he still lived with his mother. Eventually, their love story blossomed like a well-watered garden. After 2 years of dating, Creflo pulled himself together, and they tied the knot. He worked as an education therapist at a mental health hospital, while Taffy held a job at a FedEx call center. The couple resided in a modest apartment in Riverdale, Georgia, along with Creflo's adopted son, Gregory. Gregory immediately started referring to Taffy as Mom, but despite having them as parental figures in his life, Gregory still faced tough moral challenges. According to reports, he had brushes with the law, struggled with substance abuse, engaged in premarital relations, and even dabbled in exotic male dancing. However, he managed to turn his life around and now works as a digital network programmer at Creflo's church. Sometime after their marriage, Creflo and Taffy decided to expand their family and adopted another son named Jeremy. They didn't stop there, though. They went on to have 3 daughters, making their household a bustling abode of 7. I must admit, that dynamic made me a little anxious. By this time, Creflo had realized that his calling lay beyond being a therapist. He and Taffy became co-pastors at their non-denominational church, originally known as World Changers Ministry Christian Center. Their first service drew a humble attendance of 8 people in an elementary school cafeteria. Eventually, that little Bible study in the dorm room grew up, got a job, and became the World Changers Church International, WCCI. Creflo and Taffy led the charge, and the congregation exploded. They moved from the cafeteria to a dedicated chapel and eventually built the World Dome, a massive 8,500-seat facility. And get this, they did it without any bank financing. That's right, no loans, just faith and a truckload of divine supplies. But Creflo's teachings on prosperity theology have continued to raise eyebrows. He believes God wants us all to be rich, like private jet and Rolls-Royce rich. And boy, does he practice what he preaches.
Basically, the Christian gospel turned on its head, turned upside down. And it's to honor Creflo Dollar and not so much about honoring God.
Creflo Dollar owns a $1 million home in Atlanta, a multi-million-dollar mansion in New Jersey, and even a Manhattan pad. But this elevated lifestyle only means a majority of his congregation cannot reach out to him. According to a former congregation member, Mr. Dollar is always accompanied by around 4 security guards during church services. The former member also reveals that the pastor is scary and untouchable, and has little interest in interacting with regular people. He also mentions Mr. Dollar says his schedule prevents him from engaging in common activities like taking commercial flights or shaking hands with every parishioner. But despite this barrier between Pastor Creflo and his congregation, the church's members have no issue contributing financially. In 2007, The church's total revenue was estimated to be nearly $70 million, amounting to about $83.4 thousand a year, with Mr. Dollar's private net worth capped at $30 million. By 2008, Creflo's church had expanded globally, with offices on several continents and a daily TV show reaching billions of households. The foundation of his empire was built on the message of the prosperity gospel, which promotes the idea that God doesn't want believers to be poor. However, it is unclear if the members of his congregation also benefit from this message and enjoy extravagant lifestyles. The example of one church member, Mary Jones, who still relied on public transportation, proves that not all his members live in luxury. Investigations into Creflo's financial activity revealed that he had formed 2 offshore entities in the Bahamas in 2006, but their purpose and assets were never disclosed. In 2007, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa initiated an investigation into Creflo and other pastors accused of using their followers' tax-free donations to fund their lavish lifestyles. Creflo refused to hand over his financial records, citing the church's privacy rights, and denied any financial improprieties.
It means, it sounds technical, but what that means is, as a church, he doesn't have to give financial information to anybody, and so therefore he doesn't.
Shortly afterward, Dollar said in an interview with CNN that he didn't misuse the church's money in any way.
It's a miscalculated assumption that those things were purchased with the church's money. I've purchased over 100 cars for people in my congregation, homes for people in the congregation.
In 2012, despite preaching about health being the divine right of all Bible-believing Christians, Creflo was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He credited his belief in God and the power of prayer for helping him overcome the illness. However, that year brought more challenges when a former maintenance worker of the church walked into a Wednesday morning prayer service and fatally shot a worship leader. Creflo was not present during the incident, and none of the congregation members in attendance were injured. The challenges extended to Creflo's own family in the same year. His 15-year-old daughter asked permission to attend a party, but an argument erupted when Creflo denied her request. According to his daughter, Creflo physically assaulted her by laying hands on her and hitting her with a shoe. The police were called, and a scratch on her neck was documented. Creflo denied the allegations, but he was arrested and charged with simple assault. The charges were eventually dismissed, and he was put on probation, ordered to enroll in anger management classes, and required to pay court fees. In a March 2015 YouTube video, Creflo openly asked his followers worldwide for $65 million despite his outstanding wealth. He explained that he and his staff had been flying commercial due to a mechanical failure of his private jet, which resulted in an incident where the aircraft skidded off the runway in London while his wife and daughters were on board. He said he needed the $65 million to purchase a new state-of-the-art Gulfstream G650 private jet. Well, it seems that Creflo Dollar had some rather too ambitious plans. That's why he wanted to acquire the new plane. He believed that with just 200,000 people chipping in a few $100s each, he could reach millions of supporters worldwide. Of course, not everyone was on board with this outlandish request, and the backlash was quite significant. But Creflo's loyal parishioners were ready to open their wallets and hand over as much as he needed. One former member even clarified that she wasn't giving the money to him, but to the ministry, because he apparently did good things for other people around the world. Interestingly, after the news of his fundraising campaign hit the press, Creflo showed up to the next church service and decided to give away not 1 but 2 flat-screen TVs. Now that's quite a surprise. It seems he had a change of heart about giving things away. I guess you could say he broke his no-church raffle streak. And it turns out this wasn't the first time Creflo had asked his congregation to fund some extravagant purchases. He once dreamt of buying Madison Square Garden, a venue valued at a whopping $4.5 billion. He also reportedly attempted to raise $81 million to build a church in Queens, New York. Well, the backlash eventually reached a boiling point, and his ministries had to do some damage control. They announced that the fundraising campaign was no longer in existence. It seems they couldn't contain the uproar anymore. But wait, there's more. In July 2022, Creflo had a change of heart about tithing. He admitted that the teachings he had shared in the past were incorrect, and he acknowledged that the church had used the subject of tithing to keep people in fear and guilt. But hold on. During a church service, Mr. Dollar himself confessed to misleading his congregants about tithing despite having written numerous books on the subject. Quite the plot twist, wouldn't you say? In fact, he declared that all his books, tapes, and videos on tithing should be tossed out without a shred of shame. Well, it's never too late to have a change of heart, right? But I think it was for this particular case because when you take a look at all the people Creflo Dollar had primed into believing that they were committing unpardonable sins by not giving all their wealth to God, you can't just wake up from that to make an announcement that you've had a change of heart overnight. What about the psychological and emotional damage that has caused a lot of people? Now, here comes the juicy part. An online source suggested that Mr. Dollar refund those who funded his extravagant lifestyle, but we're not entirely sure if he actually gave any money back to his congregation after that incident. Let's also not forget about Mr. Dollar's health issues. First, he said that God healed him from COVID-19 and blood clots around his lungs, but then he suffered from shingles not too long afterward, which damaged his nerves. As if that wasn't enough, 3 tumors were found in his body, and he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. Talk about a series of unfortunate events. However, there seems to be a silver lining in his story, because as of 2023, Mr. Dollar has revealed that he is cancer-free. But we wonder if that's actually true, or just another way to beef up his word of faith doctrine even more. As I round up this video, I pray that Mr. Dollar actually witnesses the true touch from God, not just in his body, but in his soul, a touch capable of causing a change in his approach to the gospel. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. Do give it a like if you enjoyed it and share any thoughts you have about it in the comments section. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification settings. Thanks for watching.